Now, it is 30 years since the R&B girl group Eternal first entered the charts. And the breakout star of that group was, of course, Louise, now Rednapp, who went on to launch a hugely successful solo career.
And now, just Louise is celebrating her 3 decades in music by re-recording some of those classic tunes for a greatest hits album. She's going to be here to talk to us in just a moment. But first, let's have a quick listen.
Here she is. Morning, Louise.
Hi.
Now, I feel awful saying 30 years in the music industry, but we should just point out you did start very, very young.
So young. Well, I wasn't even that young, but yeah, I mean, it's 30 years. But yeah, I was obviously 19 when we started.
But
20.
you were spotted even before that, weren't you?
Yeah, so 15 in a club that I was never meant to be in.
Very young.
I don't know, I know.
On a school night.
On a school night. Yeah, and Dennis Inglesby was in there, who was at the time, he went on to be our manager, and he was head of A&R Records at Polydor, and he was there with Pete Tong before Pete Tong was the Pete Tong we all know. So, yeah, it just right place, right time.
And what did he say to you at 15? You know, what was that conversation?
So he just literally came up to me and just said, "Is there any chance you can sing?" And I was very confident at 15. I was like, well, actually, I go to stage school. I can sing. Gave me his card, went home, told my mum and dad. They were like, don't be so ridiculous. I said, throw that card in the bin. And what was you doing in a club at 15? You were meant to be staying at a friend's house. Actually, I didn't throw the card away. I actually rang when I went to school, you know, on the payphone. And he was genuinely head of A&R Records at Polydor. He said, can I talk to your parents? Came down to my house and I sang in the kitchen for him, and it kind of went from there. Just
on the payphone. I love that.
On the payphone in school.
Your 10p.
Yeah, putting my money in.
That's brilliant. I mean, because now you're a mum of similar age teenage boys. I'm trying to think, if one of them came home and said, some guy's giving me a card and he wants to make me a star. I mean, as a parent now...
I know. You'd be really suspicious, wouldn't you? And I think my parents were, to be honest. But I have to say, it was never untoward in any way. I think it sounds like there was an opportunity that it could have been, but he was so by the book. He said, could I speak to your mum and dad? You know, when he found out I was only 15, and then dealt with them. And then we just went into the studio all together, all 4 of us, the Eternal girls, and we started doing BVs and kind of just learning the ropes, you know, back in the day.
Look at this, back in the day,
yeah.
What's it been like, looking back at all of this and singing it again?
Do you know, it's been so lovely when sort of the team come to me and said, how about we do a greatest hits? And I felt really I felt it was important to not just do all the old records and a few new pictures. I think for me it was about creating something new. This is about celebrating. I didn't want it to be the end of something. Like sometimes the greatest hits can feel like the end of maybe music. So I said, well, I'm really happy to do it, but I think it's important that I record new songs to keep it current and to keep it, you know, what I want to do now, and re-record some of the Eternal songs and some of mine. So you get a bit of everything.
And was that fun, the re-recording stuff? You give it a new twist, a new sense?
So much fun. I think doing the Eternal songs, I was really nervous because the girls from Eternal, Esther Bennett on lead vocals, is one of the best vocalists I think the UK has ever had. So to go in there and sort of sing Just a Step from Heaven was nerve-wracking. I've had big boots to fill. I wanted to do the girls proud. But the memories and just getting to sing. I mean, a good song's a good song, and I think those early Eternal songs were just timeless.
And looking at the industry, you know, you sound like you had actually a really positive experience right from the very start. Do you think it's changed much in that 30 years?
Do you know, it's talking about this greatest hits, it comes up all the time. When we sort of started out back 30 years ago, there wasn't the whole social media element. You were just in this bubble of working, and your only indication of how your record was doing was how many it was selling. And that sold, well, 1.5 million in that first year. So that's like hard copies where people went in and bought an album. And you were completely shielded from any opinions. I know that's mad, but no one, you know, all you knew is if people liked it and where it would chart. And, you know, the press were sort of, it was interviews, it was all very governed. It wasn't like, there wasn't sort of like random shots appearing and things like that. So you were in a lovely bubble of bliss and you could genuinely actually just enjoy gigging, going out, releasing music.
It's really not like that now, is it?
No, I think now it's a lot harder. There's a lot of opinions. A lot of people have got something to say. You can't escape that. I think it's learning to just try, I suppose, and understand that and not let it affect you. But what's been nice on this, I think people have been quite up for just letting me celebrate it and let me enjoy it.
Are you glad that you made it in those days when it was smash hits and physical copies? And does that, now looking back, does that feel like it was a heyday?
It felt like a really nice time. It was a lovely time for pop music.
Yeah.
I think from Eternal to being on my own, it was a real celebrated time in pop music. And I do think, though, music today, I think we are at a time where you can enjoy all types of music. There isn't really a set sort of like sound that you have to be into when you listen to radio, and that a bit of everything goes now. There's pop, there's rap, there's R&B, there's urban, there's you know, dance.
There's West End musicals.
There's West End musicals, absolutely. So I feel like you can enjoy just music on a whole then and now.
But you're going to be in Greece?
I am, opened up in Greece on Friday. So on Friday, I had the greatest hits out in the morning, like release date, and then I was opening night in Greece.
You.
I know. It couldn't be any camper, could it?
It's fabulous.
But Greece is fab, and I'm loving it. Being in the West End is such a lovely vibe to sort of, I don't know, I grew up with musicals, so it's great.
Thank you so much for coming in. I'm trying to think, if you did that in the morning and that in the afternoon, what did you do in the Friday evening? We haven't got
Very
time like
busy.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Lovely
crazy
to
time.
see you. Thanks for coming in. And Louise's Greatest Hits album is out now.